What is good, everybody? What is good? Thank you so much for checking out this video. Let me turn on the microphone here. I really appreciate you all taking the time out in your busy schedule to check out this video. So without further ado, we're going to check out some videos about what's going on in leadership, right? So a lot of these problems that we have within law enforcement are within leadership, right? So we got this, obviously, a situation going on in Dalton that I have been kind of looking into so much. I am not a journalist. I'm just reacting to what is going on here, and I'm trying to give my professional breakdown of what's going on. Try to give that behind the scenes of political spheres and what happens politically within organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So let's take a look at what's going on here in Dalton. Now, this is important because about the police chief, because the police chief, or the deputy police chief in this case, knows a bunch of stuff, right? They got all the tea. And with with Lori Lightfoot investigating, and with the FBI investigating what's going on in Dalton with Miss Mayor Tiffany Henyard, this becomes important because he's got a lot of information. he knows what it is. So you want to go around firing people and this, that, and the other. Next thing you know, he's going to turn state's evidence or, the Fed's evidence. So let's take a, but this guy's got some issues of his own. So let's take a look at the issues, and let's remember that, a lot of these problems that we see within law enforcement start at the top, and they think that they become untouchable, right? It's crazy. It's crazy how power can corrupt good morals and ethics, right? This is something we talked about when I used to teach and I was a commander and all this kind of stuff, right? We start off with really good cops. They start off with background checks, and they put them through psychological analysis and all this stuff to get this job. And next thing you know, they get in this job and they get corrupted by the system. So this is probably an example of this occurring. So let's take a look at this dude.
Courtney Spinelli has the latest, including community reaction.
Dalton's deputy chief, Louis Lacey, who stepped in as top cop before he was reportedly fired last week, is now facing charges of bankruptcy fraud. The indictment came down just days after an independent investigation revealed last week alleged wrongdoing by Lacey.
It's a great day in Dalton. Justice is being served.
Yo. Shout out to the lady with the glasses there. She's coordinating every single. I know people who coordinate their glasses with their outfits and stuff. Shout out to her. Oh man, shout out to her.
Residents reacting after the police department's acting chief was slapped with a 9-count federal indictment. Louis Lacey is accused of bankruptcy fraud, making false statements and declarations, and lying under oath.
So happy for Dalton that we're going to get some type of justice.
A 24-page indictment shows Lacey filed for bankruptcy 7 times in about 40 years. In a more recent case, Lacey is accused of underreporting.
7 times in 40 years. Listen. Talking about hiring and all this, moving up the chain of command, and you're filing for bankruptcy, right? All this credit stuff. Credit affects your job opportunities. Credit affects your job opportunities. How is this guy the second in command or first in command or acting chief or whatever he was, deputy chief, then put in as a top cop or whatever happened with that? How is he in this position? He's got all these bad financial decisions. He can't run his own. Listen, it sounds harsh, but if you can't run your own life, how can you run the police department with its financial budgets? A multi-million-dollar operation.
His income and lying about being separated from his wife, claiming she wasn't contributing to their shared expenses. Prosecutors say Lacey did this to avoid paying back more than $40,000 he owed in a settlement.
This is going to be a domino effect, and we got to take the rest of the trash out.
Lacey, now the second ally of self-proclaimed super mayor Tiffany Henyard to face federal charges of bankruptcy fraud. He follows top aide Keith Freeman, who some believe to be cooperating with trustees in their call for an investigation against the mayor. Lacey's attorney says all of this is a ploy to trick his client.
That's exactly what the U.S. attorney does every single time. They start with people that they believe that they can flip.
I'm sure Lacey is going to try to save himself.
The federal charges leveled against Lacey separate from accusations shared by Lori Lightfoot, the former mayor and federal prosecutor hired by the village to conduct an independent investigation, sharing her findings last week. Lacey was allegedly paid more than $200,000 in overtime over the last several years, but here's the catch. he's not eligible for OT.
She's not a judge. She's not a jury. She's not an administrative law individual that can rule on whether or not Mr. Lacey was overpaid or underpaid or whatever it is.
The village fired Lacey last week after he was
I would imagine that her role is simply a fact finder. I'm not saying just whether it was legal or illegal. It's just, here's what the facts are. I'm sure that Lori Lightfoot knows this, right? Just do the investigation, and here's what it is. Here's what here's what the money was. You're not eligible, but you received overtime. You all do with this information as the head of the town as you wish.
Placed on leave. Even after his notice of termination, WGN is told he continued to show for work. When asked to confirm his status of employment, Lacey's attorney deflected, saying this.
It's the trustees that are trying to coordinate a coup in that town without any due process.
But the due process now begins in his federal bankruptcy case, as residents say they're eager to see what comes next.
I'm just so happy because this man needs to be taken off the street. He does not need a gun or anything, period.
Lacey's attorney says he plans to surrender in court and they will enter a not guilty plea. Reporting in the newsroom, Courtney Spinelli, WGN News.
This is, as I watch it, was 2 days ago as I record this. So that's interesting. Let's see here. Let's go to this one. Actually, what's going on with Dalton? Dalton Supermayor here, right? Dalton Supermayor here. This was, I'm recording this a day after this. I'm recording this on August 15th. Dalton Mayor
How do
Tiffany
celebrities like Justin Bieber and The Rock generate hundreds of millions?
Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard nowhere to be found after report reveals huge village debt. So they still have not found this lady. A day after report in a probe of village finances found South Suburban Dalton is more than $3.5 million in the red. Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who's accused of missing taxpayer money, was nowhere to be found. So is she still MIA? Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who was hired by the village board to investigate handling of the village finances, released preliminary findings that the village is not only significant in debt, but the credit card spending is out of control. Henyard hasn't responded to requests for comment and wasn't at Dalton's Village Hall on Friday. Oh, can you guys even see this? On Friday, let me try to expand this a little bit here. Village employees said Henyard wasn't in office and didn't say when she would return. Man, this is just terrible, man. Here's the overtime numbers here: 108,000, 114,000. This is all in addition to the regular pay. This is all got to be racked up with her travels and all that kind of stuff and all this extra security. Deputy Chief Lewis Lacey, placed on administrative leave, was paid $96,000 in overtime. The village has been unable to pay all of its monthly expenditures with its available cash balance. That's terrible, man. That's terrible. That's terrible. Leadership matters. Leadership matters. Let's see. Oh, so here's another story here. Here's another story about leadership. Let me try to get the whole thing on the screen here. All right. So NBC News, right? This crazy story here, right? Woman sues Florida sheriff, alleging she was twice forced out of her home naked as deputy executed warrants. If this is true, this sheriff's deputy should be immediately ousted. Why? Because he had the Acorn incident. Remember the officer who was panicked and shooting at his own marked car, right? Because he he responds to a call, he takes somebody into custody, handcuffs him, puts him in the backseat of his car, and continues to do whatever he's doing as far as his investigation. Next thing you know, he feels an acorn, he hears and feels an acorn hit him, and then he rolls out and yells shots fired and starts blasting into his car. His supervisor, who was a sergeant, she also starts shooting at the car. Both of them miss. Fortunately, the guy was unharmed. Both of them miss. He either resigns or gets terminated, right? But obviously he was in the wrong. And nothing happened to her administratively, which I have a problem with. I have a problem with that. Did you see anybody? Did you hear any shots fired? Did you see, what were you shooting at? How many rounds did you fire? Are you engaging in sympathetic fire, which police officers are trained not to do? You got to have an identified target that you're shooting at. Well, did you see a gun? Did you hear the gun pop? I don't, I'd be so interested in reading her statements and the internal affairs investigation that was conducted, because I can't believe that she was not held accountable in any way. I absolutely think that was absolutely nuts that she was not held accountable in any way and didn't face any type of scrutiny from the department. Crazy to me, crazy. A woman in Florida, and this story is from just a couple of months ago, a woman in Florida has sued the sheriff of a department that came under scrutiny this month after the fatal shooting in the arm of the Black Air Force senior airman, right? I still disagree with that, but it is what it is. As far as the officer, as far as I know, the officer hasn't been charged yet. They fired him, but he hasn't been charged yet. So I'm imagining he's going to get his job back, right? LaTanya Griffin, who said she was neither arrested nor charged at the encounters, with an S, seeks damages more than $1 million. Or only $1 million. I would be seeking more than $1 million. This happened to you twice. This is a culture. This is the problem. This is the way your officers get down. Was there no discipline after the first time he was touted out there naked for your kids and for the neighbors to see? Anybody to take pictures of? Was anybody disciplined for that? You'll only won $1 million? Crazy. I would want way more than that. The suit alleges her Fourth Amendment rights, which prohibit unreasonable searches and seizures, was violated when deputies forced her out of her home unclothed on August 29th, 2019, and again on May 20th. Why is it taking so long for this? Is this story just now happening right now? This happened 4 years ago. Why? It's 2024. I just heard about this recently. She was not the target of the warrants, her attorney said. The lawsuit filed in the federal court Monday evening names Okaloosa County Sheriff Eric Adden and Grady Carpenter, a now retired deputy who was present during the execution of both warrants, as defendants. Carpenter provided direction and oversight for Griffin's naked seizures and deputies' operations in the May 2020 incident. The lawsuit charges Carpenter did not immediately reply to requests for comment. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office said in a statement that Aiden is unable to provide comments about this matter because the events described in the lawsuit occurred before he took office and he was not involved in or present at the execution of the warrant. Oh my God. You can't read over the stuff and give a comment? Griffin, 46, previously sued the sheriff's office in federal court last August related to the 2019 incident. She alleges that in that suit that deputies were using battering to enter her home while they were serving a search warrant and order her at gunpoint to remain nude in front of her officers and the public, including her 6-year-old daughter and 14-year-old son. The earlier suit named defendants Aiden Carpenter and another deputy, Raphael Brown, who also did not immediately reply to, did he reply or not? Immediately replied to a request for comment. In court documents, lawyers for the sheriff's office said in response to the first suit that the deputies' actions were consistent with established, reasonable, and generally accepted police procedure. Hell to the nah. Listen, I've been on these scenes. We don't leave people out there naked. We go get our coats. We go get blankets from the car. I don't know what they're talking about. That is not a routine police procedure. I'm telling you, it's not. The lawyers also said the actions of two deputies named in the lawsuit were in good faith, and while they were acting within the course and scope of their employment as deputy sheriffs within it's crazy. The first suit is still in the discovery phase. The latest suit alleges that in May 2020, and you got 4 years. I thought you only had 2 years to file this type of stuff. Incident bore striking similarity to the August 2029 seizure. The second incident involved the execution of an arrest warrant before dawn at Griffin's 2-story home in a modest residential community directly parallel to a busy public roadway, according to the lawsuit. All right, so everybody who's driving on this lawsuit in the early morning hours going to work can see this woman standing naked on the side of the road, allegedly. The suit contends Carpenter failed to exercise his supervisory authority to stop the constitutional violation. Yeah, this is a supervisor problem. Once they were outside her residence, Griffin's children watched her during her naked detention for a substantial amount of time, the lawsuit said, adding that her hands were zip-tied or handcuffed behind her back. Though she objected, Griffin remained naked in the presence of multiple law enforcement officers, the suit says. The deputies eventually placed a tank top over her head, providing partial covering but not concealment of her genitalia. Anderson, speaking on behalf, said Griffin was humiliated and said, and has since moved from Okaloosa County in the Florida Panhandle, east coast of Pensacola, to the northern part of the state. I would get away from there too. He called the deputy's actions, both incidents, abhorrent. They took no precautions to preserve her dignity. He said in an interview she was humiliated and made to do what they wanted her to do. She was treated like an animal. Griffin's nudity continued outside of her home, at the roadside, and inside law enforcement vehicle. According to the lawsuit, Griffin suffered a loss of liberty and freedom, physical inconvenience, physical discomfort, mental anguish, emotional distress, emotional suffering, mental and emotional harm, embarrassment, humiliation, and injury to dignity, and injury to her reputation. She is seeking unspecified damages, including for medical care, loss of earnings and income, as well as relocation expenses for the current claim. I would be suing for so much more. The sheriff's office, yep, right. So they've got the Roger Fortson situation. Right, the Acorn situation I talked about, the deputy fired multiple times at the SUV where a black man was handcuffed in the back seat. The man was not injured in the incident, and the deputy resigned. There are many instances where the Okaloosa Sheriff's County has been scrutinized, Anderson said. It just takes a quick Google to see the deadly force utilized or their indiscretion with the seizures of people within the community and supervisors who are asleep at the wheel when the deputies are running wild. Man, that is just absolutely crazy. That is just absolutely crazy. And there's another story from this dude, right? Oh, same county, right? This is wait, I want to see something, right? I want to see if this was updated or anything, right? What is the original story? Is this the original story? This was not updated at all. Janelle Griffin is a national reporter for NBC News focusing on issues of race and policing. Yeah, I'm sure that she's got a lot of work, unfortunately. Update. Okaloosa, you can't see it. This comes from WKRG News. Okaloosa County Sheriff responds to charges being dropped on former deputy. This is the recent, right? Update the 3:52 p.m. Sheriff Aiden in the Okaloosa County Sheriff Office has responded to News 5 requests for a statement of charges being dropped on the former deputy Dylan Gentry. According to Sheriff Aiden, Gentry was terminated for violating agency policy after he was arrested on a felony charge by the Fort Walton County Beach Police Department. I am from the Northeast, but I hear that these counties and these police departments go back and forth with arresting each other, pulling each other over, and this has been going on for years. What I heard, I'm just telling you what I heard. So, I don't live in Florida. I do visit there. My cousin lives there, so I visit there from time to time. But I don't know what's going on down there. These guys arresting each other and all kind of stuff. So, Sheriff Aiden said Gentry was given the opportunity to appeal his termination, but chose not to do so. The sheriff emphasized the commitment of the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office to maintain public trust and uphold the law. Okay, brother. You can read the entire statement below. Mr. Gentry was terminated for a Category 5 violation of agency policy regarding conformance to laws. In other words, he was violating the laws, right? He went to other places. You know, that's why it's so important for police departments to have these different standards, checks and balances, and make sure that their officers are complying with the laws and acting appropriately, right? Again, I was from the Northeast, and if I went on vacation to Florida or to Hawaii or to Texas or to Arizona or any place else, right, and I'm acting stupid, right, I can be fired in my hometown, right? So it seems as if this officer, as we're going to read the story, was doing something inappropriate, and he was fired for, in their estimation, a Category 5 policy violation. Following his arrest on multiple charges, to include a felony by the Fort Worth County Police Department and a judge determining probable cause existed for Mr. Gentry's arrest, our agency investigated the complaint. The findings revealed he violated agency policy and was terminated in accordance with our policy, but given the opportunity to appeal his findings. Mr. Gentry chose not to appeal his termination. He probably said, listen, y'all out here having naked ladies and I don't mean to make fun of it, but y'all out here not, violating people's rights. Naked ladies standing outside, other officers are shooting at people. You got female sergeants shooting at people, not hitting their targets, indiscriminately, and all the stuff that's going on. He's probably like, nah, I'm good. I'm good on you all. And you fire me, I'm good on you all, right? At the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, we hold our personnel to higher standards, integrity, and professionalism. Our commitment to maintaining public trust and upholding law is paramount. When any member of our agency fails to meet these standards, I take swift and decisive action to address the issue. Okay, you fired that guy from the Rogers shooting, and you didn't do anything about the other shooting. I don't understand that, but whatever, man. To reiterate, Mr. Gentry was afforded due process and the opportunity to appeal the findings and chose not to do so. Do they get lawyers? I mean, does he have to get his own lawyer to do it? To have unions? Probably not. Our agency remains dedicated to transparency and accountability. We will continue to work diligently to ensure all the members of our agency uphold the values and principles that guide our mission to serve and to protect. The original story, charges against former Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office have been dropped. The video evidence emerged, according to Jay Patel, attorney at law. Right? Video, man. Video makes a big difference in these cases. Video makes a big difference, right? You were firing people. Remember, a judge looked at this. A judge determined, based on the written statements, I would assume, written statements, absent whatever video evidence, the judge assumed that there was enough probable cause. Dylan Gentry was accused of racing on the highway before his arrest. The news release said he was charged with reckless driving and felony tampering with evidence. He was arrested by the Fort Walton Beach County Police Department and booked in the Okaloosa County Jail in front of his boys. This is where this man worked. They didn't even take him to the police department. It's probably such a small police department, they don't have their own booking facility. They took him to where his boys worked. He was booked in there. You know how humiliating that was for him? That's probably why he was like, nah, I'm good. I'm not coming back here. He might not come, but I would imagine I would probably sue. The law firm's news release said a camera on Gentry's motorcycle showed he did not commit any criminal act and his arrest was entirely unjustified. Did the judge see this camera? I mean, man, that's crazy. The video evidence has been instrumental in demonstrating his innocence, Patel's news release said. However, because Fort Walton Beach County officer made a felony arrest, the arrest triggered an immediate termination of Mr. Gentry's employment pursuant to their policy. So, obviously, did they arrest him? Here's a question. Did they arrest him just because did they fire him just because he was arrested? Or was it in conjunction with the arrest and the judge's determination that there was probable cause evidence? Did you do any type of investigation? Again, this is why I'm going to say I'm good on you people. You didn't listen to my side of the story. I had video evidence. I had to go get a lawyer, right? And I'm sure that his lawyer is going to sue. Man, that department, man. That department. All right, so supervision matters, right? So I'm going to do a couple more stories here. So this is the story about this officer removed. This officer was removed from HPD. He's the Houston Police Department executive team in aftermath of investigation into suspended cases. I don't know what this is about, so we'll watch the story together and I'll give my professional opinion.
The Houston Police Department today finally issued its final report into one of its biggest scandals ever, the suspension of over 260,000 criminal cases because of a lack of manpower. It all started with the department admitting back in February that over 4,000 sexual assault cases had been suspended due to a lack of personnel.
And today, over 6 months later, interim police chief Larry Satterwhite presented these findings before Houston City Council this morning as to how this all happened. Let's go to KPRC2 investigator Mario Diaz now. He was there, and Mario, Chief Satterwhite acknowledged that there was failure to the top, at the top, really, for years.
That's right, Danny. Satterwhite started his presentation by speaking to the issues of HPD being understaffed before ultimately admitting the entire leadership team at HPD missed the scandal time and time again. Satterwhite spoke for over an hour, taking several questions from council members as to how something like this could happen. A code that was not only implemented as policy in 2016, but one that Satterwhite admits officers were trained on in terms of how to use it. Satterwhite also confirming what KPRC2 Investigates first reported in April, that sex assault cases involving children had been suspended. Afterwards, the interim chief and the mayor held a news conference.
biggest fail again is that there was no follow-up. There was no checking in. There was no looking back to say what actually is going on, and is it the right thing to do, and how do we fix it if we had, because this could have been fixed many years ago, and it's unfortunate that it did not until now.
I'm still shocked, having worked with HPD, city leadership, the employee groups, that this could exist for so many years and not become public. I'm just shocked.
Now, as I first reported back in May, the entire investigation was reopened because of integrity questions that were raised regarding a letter that Executive Assistant Chief Chandra Hatcher wrote to then Chief Troy Finner that helped launch the investigation. Multiple law enforcement sources confirmed to KPRC2 Investigates that Hatcher was not truthful in that letter. Again, this is the letter that was used to launch the investigation. During the news conference with Chief Satterwhite, I asked for the status of Hatcher since she was not in attendance today.
She is a member of the Houston Police Department, an active member of the Houston Police Department right now.
Is she still an executive assistant chief?
She will not be a part of the executive team.
Has she been demoted?
She is still making decisions.
Look at this dude, man. Just this is what people hate. I mean, you're coming clean because you got caught about, the lack of professionalism, the lack of investigating these SA cases, right? Nobody's investigating, right? Your leadership is in free fall, and you won't come clean, man. You're dancing around. This is why people mistrust the police, man. This is why they do it, man. This is why they do it.
And in respect to her, I'm letting her make those decisions, and she has some time to do that.
We, of course, are not done investigating this scandal. We'll have more coming up over the course of the next 24 hours. Live in the newsroom, Mario Diaz, KPRC2 Investigates.
This is 2 weeks ago. This is why people, don't trust the police, right? Why people, oftentimes, ladies in particular, don't want to report their crimes, in particular sexual assault cases, because I don't think anything's being done. And if my memory serves me correctly, it was over 200,000 cases that had to be suspended. They weren't taken seriously or looking into. Listen, man, this is unforgivable, man. This is unforgivable. Do I have another story here? Oh yeah, there's another story here. So it's unforgivable, man. It's infuriating to say the least. And then you don't come clean about what this lady's doing, and is she a chief? Has she been demoted? She's a public servant who gets paid by the tax dollars. Answer the question. All of this makes our jobs harder. We talk about recruitment. They talk about the low morale amongst police officers. They talk about the low numbers of people who want to become police officers, low recruitment rates. This is why. You think people are going to want to join this, right? You think that people want to join this? And law enforcement's got a long way to go, man. Long way to go. Robbins, former acting police chief charged with beating man at Village Hall. What is this about? I don't know what this is about. Let's read the last story for today. This is the guy who is involved in the Sonia Massey shooting. So what's his picture doing up here? Let's see.
Now to breaking news in South Suburban Robbins, where the former acting police chief is facing criminal charges. Our Andrew Ramos broke this story last month. 47-year-old Carl Scott was on duty last month when a man known as Tyrant Terminator Audits on social media walked into the police station to file a complaint against him related to an earlier incident. That is where the trouble started. A man whose real name is James walked into the police station and started recording with his cell phone. The encounter then turned. Scott is accused of calling two other officers to help. They were issuing a ticket for public nuisance. When they took James to be fingerprinted, the chief allegedly knocked the man's cell phone to the ground and hit him. He's also accused of shoving this man, and it escalated when they went into the interview room.
He took me in his room, slammed me down on like this little metal plate where you sit at, and he told the two officers to cut the cameras off, and they just started beating me.
He accuses Scott of repeatedly hitting him in the.
I don't know if any of these stories are true, right? I'm saying allegedly to all of them, but you know, in the 1940s, 1950s, right, black folks were often livid about the situations, often situations that were going on within law enforcement, the brutalization, et cetera, and these allegations continue on obviously until today, but unfortunately now, if this is true, this chief of police is doing this. And this man has been charged. He's been charged with beating the man. This is crazy.
Ahead while the two other officers watched. Court documents state that Scott dropped James's cell phone into a sewer.
Somebody said I can rewind it. Thank you for whoever gave me that. The other officers watched. If this is all true, it's all alleged right now. But we don't have cameras because allegedly it was turned off. Are the cameras on? Where's the camera footage? No camera footage. The mayor ought to fire this man immediately. Rewind it a little bit here. Duty to intervene. Since the George Floyd, that had become stronger language. Duty to intervene. These two officers should have stopped this police chief.
Other officers watched. Court documents state that Scott dropped James's cell phone into a sewer outside the police station, where it was later recovered. If convicted, Scott faces up to 5 years in prison.
So let me just finish this off with saying that leadership is often the problem, and these departments, man, they rise and fall on the strength of their leadership. And if you got the police chiefs doing that, right? And we talk about duty to intervene, and it doesn't mean anything when the chief's doing it, right? Who's going to step in and stop the police, stop the chief? Going to be reassigned. You're not going to get special assignments. Overtime can be cut. Extra duty job assignments can be cut. Different retaliatory methods will be employed. It's disappointing to say the least. Let me know your thoughts or your opinions. Hit me in the comments section. Much love and peace.